fresh, new mother cries. Who listened to the fall, to the floor?
Hello, welcome back to another pen talk. Today we're going to be revisiting fond memories. Recently had a friend who was able to win a Delta pen on an eBay auction for me. Appreciate that, and won the auction exactly a week ago, and the package arrived today. So we're going to open it up, experience a little bit of the unboxing, and then we'll take a quick look at the pen, and then later on we'll do a little bit more in-depth review of how it writes. What's nice about packaging is when they do ship the pen, you get full documentation. You can track it on DHL, and DHL seems to be delivering very quickly. You know, once the package leaves Italy, it's in the States within 24 hours, and then usually, depending upon where you're located relative to DHL, it gets delivered within a day or two after that. So I'm certain the tape is familiar. There's been a few people doing some videos on pens that they purchased from this Italian supplier. All of the reviews seem to be relatively positive, and hopefully I can continue on with that. They do a very good job in wrapping it up. Makes it a little bit of a challenge to unbox it, but that's part of the fun. You know, I've been looking to add to my Deltas, so as you know, those that you watch me, I did get a Unica recently, but this pen represents something that I've been, you know, watching for a while, and when something finally came up from auction, I was able to snag it, or my friend was able to snag it at a good price. One of the things that they do is they put up a lot of pens, hundreds of pens, at the same time. They close at the same time, so as long as you're flexible and watch how the bidding goes, you can generally pick up a pen for a very reasonable price. I wanted a solid 14 karat gold nib, which this one has, and they rumored it to be a number 6. So this is a little bit new. They have their name on the front of the box. No other identification. As we lift up the lid, the proverbial popcorn filler, which I'm not really certain why they use. We're going to empty that. And this is a DolceVita Federico captured converter, medium size, which I think is actually a pretty good size. We have the Delta box. Here there would be cartridges, but since there's only a capture converter here, cartridges probably could work, but not what it's designed to use. The nice unscrewing to remove the cover. One of the things is these have no logo on the top of them, which I've had on some of the other Delta pens that I've gotten with this type of packaging. Underneath of it here we have the normal Delta literature and the authentication of the 14 karat gold nib. Here it is. They're very good at providing you with official warranty, dated, initialized, and with the unique number 606 from the pen. Very secure in its packaging. You know, this foam works well. They probably use a lot of it, so it works. And they probably can do it at a reasonable price. So this is the pen. The size is like a mid-size DolceVita. I got it because it was called Hell's Bells, and I don't have any red acrylic pens from Delta, so that was one reason and why I like this one. I would have preferred gold trim. I know some people like rhodium trim, but I like it gold, especially with this color combination. But the rhodium does work well, and I don't think it detracts from the overall beauty and aesthetics of the pen. You know, you got your Delta logo at the top of the cap. Nothing here. This is a blind cap, which unscrews to give you the screw knob, which is actually the top of the capture converter. You know, obviously my first impressions are very nice, very well. One of the differences is between this and the other DolceVitas that I have is this is now a stainless steel band here, and it's laser engraved. Delta's always good at labeling the pens. There's the DolceVita, Federico, and the unique number 0606, and of course you have Delta here at the top. Unscrew cap is all the Deltas seem to be. Good size pen, that's what I expected. And a really decent sized nib. This is bigger than the nib I had on my DolceVita Zen. I got it in fine. I've been really appreciating some fine nibs recently. I have extra fines from Delta, and I've been very happy with them. They give you a choice of nibs from extra fine through broad, and some of them cost a little bit more money, but I just went with a fine, which was the same money, and they shipped exactly what I asked for. You know, the classic Delta engraving here, which is always nice. Classic feed. The feeds seem to vary from pen to pen, but I've never had a Delta feed that didn't work correctly. And this red acrylic certainly looks great. Hopefully in this western sunlight you're picking up all the different nuances and chatoyancy and depth. You know, it's different shades of red with some specks of black in there. Kind of reminds you of a rolling fire, or maybe some people's depiction of hells, because this is called Hell's Bells. So with that, we'll close it up, and I'm going to be inking this pen up and using it as a writer for a while, and then we'll come back and review my writing experiences. Before we actually go to the writing test, I figured I'd do a comparison. So this is the Standufo. This is a Delta Oro mid-sized. This is my DolceVita Zen and a Pelikan M800. What I'm always impressed about is these pens, size-wise, certainly hold their own with the Pelikan M800, which is considered a fairly large pen. And also I like to get the light comparison so you can see the differences in the resin. I just really like what they've done here, and you can see the difference that they did with the center, the thick center band. This is a cast sterling, which has been coated in gold, and that's your etched stainless steel. And as we go to the Zen, you also see here's the rhodium plated version, but this is a cast sterling, a rhodium plated, and you can see the difference that they've done. So that's probably reduced costs a little bit, and therefore made the pen a little bit more affordable. But my main goal is to experience the writing. Here as we compare the size of the two nibs, and I'd say that's definitely a good size nib in the Standufo, the Hell's Bells. And we're going to again do some more comparisons. Here's the Fusion nib, which looks to be a size smaller than the gold nib, which is nice. This is the largest gold nib. I think it's the same size as the ones on my Indigenous People series, so I'm very happy to explore and see how that nib works when it hits paper. And for one last comparison, this is a gold nib on the Zen, and it is also smaller than, the focus was a little bit late, but it's not intense light. As you can see, that's a good maybe 2 sizes smaller than the Standufo nib. So, and also the section is different. I like the Zen. I've been using it as a daily writer. I had the broad nib cut into a left oblique, so that was Mike Masiamo who did that. So this will be interesting again. I'm getting back into more regular nibs now, do a lot of writing, and I find they're very pleasurable. So that's it. Later. Hello. I thought we would do a look at design elements. So I put together a few pens, 4 Deltas and 1 Pelican, to discuss kind of design features, aesthetics, materials, maybe a little bit of weight and balance. So let's start. I've done these, I did an M800 nib comparison to the Delta Federico. I was calling it Standufo, but that's really the name that kind of more addresses the filling mechanism versus the model of the Delta. Should turn this around so you get to see nib to nib. So there's some commonality here, but also some significant differences. The Federico is a bigger pen than the M800, which is not an easy thing to accomplish. Clip design is also much different. You know, you got your roller clip on your Delta and your classic beak design here on the Pelican. Interesting, they both have a design element on the top of the cap, which is a unique trademark that they both use. So that's interesting. They both have what might refer to be as a blind cap, but actually the M800 being a piston filler, this is what operates the piston. On the Federico, this is what accesses the knurled knob that moves the converter up and down. So that's kind of a difference. The other thing I think you'll notice is I kind of like red and black as a combination for a pen. So the barrels of these two are certainly somewhat similar, but again, the Delta takes the prize for the largest, at least in diameter, section, and also it's slightly longer. And as we saw before on the black M800, the nib is comparable size. I mean, obviously the nib on this Pelican is the italic double broad, so that's a unique nib until itself. But size-wise, it holds its own. It certainly would be nice if there was a little bit more color and decoration on the Delta nib, but that's not something I've seen that they've done, like the 2-colored nib on the Pelican, except for the Fusion nib, which I see now comes in gold on a steel nib and then gold on a gold-plated nib, so it's a 1-color Fusion nib. That's something new that they've added. On the Pelican, you have a metal band at the bottom of the section, whereas on the Delta you do not. And these are two ways of looking at a resin that works in the middle, or a plastic. Obviously Delta refers to it as their special resin. And I think, I don't know what Pelican refers to their plastic as. But in the Pelican, this serves a functional purpose because you can see the ink level in the pen. And because this is a DolceVita, it has certain design elements with a DolceVita. So I have a DolceVita Oro, which is all 1 color, so I didn't want to compare those two. But I'm going to use these two to compare another feature which a lot of people like on pens, and that's posting. So the Delta Zen, I think, was designed to post, and the Federico was not. As you can see, the cap only fits down about 3/4 of an inch on that cap, and the end cap, the barrel, is big. So this makes for a large pen in the hand. Amazingly, and we're going to switch around here so we get a better light. I keep forgetting about the Western light. Amazingly, this is balanced. It looks like it should be top heavy, but because of the way this pen is designed with the weight distribution on it, it actually is balanced well, both posted and not posted. But if you compare it to the Zen, you'll see that the posted length is significantly shorter in the Zen because the cap posts much more deeply on the barrel. Yeah, that's a big difference there, and that really what accounts to how this posts. And the Zen surprisingly feels more balanced because the midpoint is pretty much here where the cap meets the barrel. Whereas on this one, the barrel is a lot heavier, and I'll do some measurements of weight there in a little bit. So the other thing I wanted to look at was some Delta design elements. So I'm going to bring in the Unica, which was the pen I got before the Federico, and the Touareg, which is the pen that I've been writing with regularly. And it's also the pen that inspired me to get the Federico in a fine 14 karat gold nib, because I loved the extra fine in the Touareg, but it is a completely different nib. The Touareg has a unique design on it that is in the theme of the indigenous people that it represents. And as you can see, it's a thinner, and width-wise, across the widest part of the nib, it's thinner than the nib on the Federico. The tines are similar length, but this has some flex to it, this does not. And I enjoy a nib with a little flex, a little softness to it. The sections are similar, but still a little bit different. They're about the same diameter, but I think the Federico is slightly larger. And it's also a hair bit longer. Going on to the rest of the barrel, you can see that Federico is also a much longer barrel. But going into a posting thing, the Touareg posts more deeply than the Federico, and feels a little bit better in the hand, at least from my experiences. So that's where those two go. So now if we compare it to, so we're looking at a relatively expensive Delta and their most inexpensive pen here, or at least close to their inexpensive pen, you know, meant to sell for under $100. I really have learned to really like that tortoise design, the resin and the way the brown and the dark and black blend together. It has a very simple design. As you can see, as you uncap it, there is no band or no metal at the bottom of the cap, and here you have that nicely engraved stainless steel band and a slightly smaller band ahead. They do share in common the roller clip, but here it is more substantial with this band here, versus this one is just inset into the cap. And the other thing they vary with, which is probably the thing that you've already expected, is posting. The Unica is just designed to be posted, and as you can see, the length is a lot nicer. So one of the things that I have not been happy with is I love the Unica nib, and I haven't learned to love the nib in the Federico. As I said, it's smooth. It's a little on the dry side, so I may work on it. It's the first Delta nib that I've wanted to do my own work on, so we're going to take a look at that over time. And I may have put an ink in here which doesn't really work that well with the pen. So that's the other thing that I need to experiment with more. So we're going to do one just ridiculous comparison, but while we're in the mood and while I have the pens to show you, is this design element. Don't need to see the microphone cord. The design element where the barrel, like we saw in the M800, the barrel has a colored material in different than the rest of the pen, and the end caps are black, the cap is black. So there is some similarities. Obviously, these are two relatively inexpensive Chinese pens, which I picked up. I eventually want to do a review on them, but I haven't really developed enough material to do that. So that's the comparisons I wanted to do, and when I have more experience with the Federico, we'll do a writing sample in comparison. Now it's time to write with the Federico. It's been 6 days since it came into my possession, and I've written with it every day since I got it. The nib took a while to get used to. My expectations were based on the extra fine 18 karat in the Delta Touareg, and this is a different nib. The one thing that all Delta nibs, from my experience, seem to have in common is they give you a nice, delicious feedback. To me, it's kind of like what people talk about with driving a BMW, where you get to feel the road. And being a motorcycle rider, that's one of the things that's the joy of being on a bike, is just having that sensation of being one with the machine and the machine with the road. So this has that, and the nib does have an excellent feel, and I've gotten to enjoy this nib. I figured we'd do one look at this beautiful acrylic. You know, this is a Delta pen that I paid $30-some for, but then of course it was $50 for shipping. So in the end it was a little bit over $80, and I would put this up against any pen that cost 2 or 3 times what I paid for this one. This is a special one made for Marty Mordina, so that has a little bit of a interesting twist to it, which I don't understand, but I get to enjoy this excellent pen. So it does have a little bit of sound to it, but as I said, that's typical of Delta nibs. You feel the paper, you can tell whether you're on Rhodia, Clairefontaine, Staples copy paper, or anything in between. I wouldn't call this the smoothest nib I've ever used. And I think that's the challenge, is this, I wish this was just slightly softer, and I think that would lend itself to my style of writing better than what it does. This is the Ackerman number 18, which I've used a few times. It's kind of like a red brick color, dirty red brick color. You know, it doesn't require any pressure to get a nice consistent line, and that is a consistent line. Applying pressure doesn't really change anything, maybe increases the flow a little bit. Do I love this pen? Absolutely. To me, using this pen on a day-to-day basis, the look, the feel, the size, it just feels worth, you know, a lot more than what I paid for it. I guess that's the best way of putting it. And those of you that have seen a lot of my videos understand that I enjoy a bargain. I've always enjoyed a bargain. Anyone can spend a lot of money for something. Anyone can say something they spend a lot of money for is great and wonderful and excellent. But to me, when you spend a reasonable amount of money and get something of this type of quality, I think that speaks for itself. And I don't know, it's I compared this to the M800, and I would take this over the M800 without even a question, but getting an M800 for $85 in any market is extremely rare, if not impossible. And these you can get on a daily and weekly basis. So I figured I would just end with that. So thank you for watching. And may all of you have excellent writing experiences. May you have many. May they be varied. It's just beautiful. I enjoy putting ink to paper, even if it looks kind of crazy and obtuse, but that's the fun part. So till the next video, enjoy.